This is All India Radio. We now bring you a radio report on the beating retreat ceremony held earlier this evening at Vijay Chowk, New Delhi.
All India Radio presents a radio report on the beating retreat ceremony 2021. Beating retreat has its origins in the early years of organized warfare, when the beating of drums and the parading of post guards heralded the closing of camp gates and the lowering of flags at the end of the day. Beating the retreat has emerged as an event of national pride when the colours and standards are paraded at Vijay Chowk, Delhi. The ceremony traces its origins to the early 1950s, when Major Roberts of the Indian Army indigenously developed the unique ceremony of display by the massed bands. Beating retreat marks a centuries-old military tradition. As soon as the bugles sounded the retreat, the troops ceased fighting, sheathed their arms, and withdrew from the battlefield. Beating retreat still continues today. It is not to announce the end of another day in the battlefield, but to announce the closure of ceremonies related to the Republic Day. The ceremony has evolved into a colourful pageant of military music and precision drill carried out by various military and Central Armed Police Forces massed bands and pipes. When we reached Vijay Chowk, the stage was all set for this year's beating retreat ceremony, as the President's bodyguard, decorated men astride their magnificent mounts, descended down Raisina Hill to take their positions on either sides of the dais, followed by camel-mounted soldiers who took their positions in front of the dying sun to provide a wonderful silhouette, backdrop to the all-decked-up Vijay Chowk. We start the radio report with arrival of Honourable President Shri Ramnath Kovind and the Royal Presidential Guard seeking permission to start the proceedings.
Rashtrapati Angrakshak! Salami Dega! Rashtra Salute! Madhya!
The regal bands representing the Indian Armed Forces and the paramilitary descended down Raisina Hill, their tunes filling the air, with the President, Prime Minister and other distinguished guests in attendance. The proceedings started with a special new composition, Swarnim Vijay, composed by Lieutenant Colonel Girish Kumar to commemorate 50 years of victory in the 1971 war against Pakistan. Indian tunes were the flavor of this year's ceremony that brought the curtains down on the 4-day-long Republic Day celebrations. 15 military bands and an equal number of pipes and drums from regimental centres and battalions participated in the ceremony. Besides, there was one band each from the Navy, the Air Force and Central Armed Police Forces. As many as 26 musical performances enthralled the spectators at the historic Vijay Chowk this time. The new composition Swarnim Vijay was followed by pipes and drums that presented Queen of Hills by Subedar Major C.S. Bhandari, Chandani composed by Subedar B.B. Thapa, Bedupako composed by S.R. Kandpal, Sati Bhai composed by L.B. Gurung. We pick up some strains of India Gate composed by H. Joseph and presented in a quick march. This was followed by Sitara-i-Hind and Mushko Valley composed by Major Nazir Hussain, VSM, by the Central Armed Police Forces bands that also presented Giriraj composed by S.R. Kandpal. The stage was then handed over to the Air Force Band, which marched in with the tune Nidar Yodha, led by Warrant Officer Ashok Kumar. The music composed and arranged by Flight Lieutenant L.S. Rupachandra, Director of Music, Indian Air Force, who also composed Tiranga Senani. What enthralled the crowd was showcasing of the Indian Air Force's contribution in the 1971 war, as the marching band made a ground formation of Hunter aircraft. This fighter aircraft was extensively used during the Indo-Pak War in 1971 and it destroyed many an enemy tank at Longewala, contributing towards India's victory. The music kept on flowing and the formations kept on changing, from Hunter aircraft to the MiG-21 aircraft and dual Rafale to Apache formations, to the surprise of a spellbound audience mesmerized by the precision in handling the musical instruments and making the formations. The Air Force Band also presented compositions Vayu Shakti by Wing Commander P.K. Jena, VSM, Evening Star by Master Warrant Officer J.A. George, VSM, and the band retreated with Sky War composed by Warrant Officer C.K. Parihar. We share some bits of Tiranga Senani. After the Air Force, it was the turn of naval bands to take the center stage as they marched in with the tune Manohar, composed by Commodore J. Rodriguez. We present the new composition of the naval band entitled Bharat Vandana, which is composed by various artists. The naval band made an exit march on Jaya Bharati, handing over the center stage to Army Military Band, which marched in with a new composition, Garud Prahar, composed by Subedar Prakash Chand. The band also played 3 more new compositions: Abhinandaniya Bharat, composed by Lieutenant Colonel Girish Kumar, U, Sambodhan Echo, composed by Lieutenant Colonel Vimal Joshi, and Havaldar Jeevan Rasaili, and Bharat Ke Jawan, composed by Lieutenant Colonel Vimal Joshi. Another tune, Army Star, was composed by Subedar Sohan Lal. Finally, massed bands played out Kadam Kadam Badhaye Ja, composed by Captain Ram Singh and Major H.B. Broad. And the drummers' corps. The event ended with a hymn, which was also very dear to the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, Abide With Me, composed by W.H. Monk. This was followed by Retreat by Buglers. The marchers come forward to lower the national flag and call it a day. Slowly, gradually, the flag is lowered with full ceremonial honors, and the birds chirp to their own symphony in the background, as if they too are part of the whole ceremony, performing to the orchestra in unison with the musician. And exit On Sare Jahan Se Acha, composed by A. Lobo, 1. The sun completely disappeared in the west, and when we stood up to make a retreat, the full moon was making its appearance visible on the horizon, peeking at the warm glow of the fully lit facades of Rashtrapati Bhavan, North Block, South Block, Parliament House and surrounding buildings.
You just heard a radio report on Beating Retreat ceremony held earlier this evening at Vijay Chowk, New Delhi. Technical assistance in the spot recording was provided by Subroto Malik, Shaktidhar Dhyani and Tejinder Singh. Assistance in production was rendered by Bhuvan Apurv Jha. Voiced by Manoj Mainkar, this radio report was produced by Nitish Kumar Arora and came to you from the studios of All India Radio, Delhi.